Hi everybody, welcome back to our course on close reading Macbeth. I'm Edward Dunnigan, partnering with the Bund Education. In our last section, section 6, we talked about 3 important dramatic devices that operate in Macbeth. Those devices were dramatic irony, foreshadowing, and the motif or the recurring element. Today, in our 7th section, we're going to begin the process of delving a little bit deeper into Macbeth, both in terms of its plot synopsis and in terms of analysis. So, earlier in this course, I talked to you about how we're going to stage our reading of Macbeth. We began early on with a condensed plot summary that was very, very simple. As we've learned about different dramatic devices and different important elements of Macbeth, like dramatic speech and stage directions, we've indirectly exposed ourselves to deeper and deeper kinds of analysis. And now we're in the home stretch of our course, which means that we're going to go into a much more detailed plot synopsis, and we're going to analyze in a more sophisticated way some key moments and speeches throughout the 5 different acts of Macbeth. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Today's section is going to try to answer 3 important questions. What action and events occur in Act 1? Okay, so earlier in this course, we gave a very simplified, essentialized plot summary. Now we're going to try to give a more complete plot synopsis. Question 2, what are some opportunities for further analysis in Act 1? Now, to be honest with you, we could spend the rest of our lives and academic careers analyzing Macbeth, so we're not going to go over everything that's an opportunity for analysis. But the approach that we're going to take pedagogically is first we're going to offer a synopsis, then we're going to offer a list of key quotations that highlight important meanings and important lines of interpretation that we can take into the play. And we're going to go over these briefly. And then thirdly, we're going to ask ourselves the question, what is the significance of Lady Macbeth's first soliloquy? So in other words, in each of these 5 lessons that analyze in greater detail the 5 acts of Macbeth, starting with section 7, we're going to choose one speech that we think is particularly meaningful, and we're going to go into that in detail. So let's go ahead and let's get started with a more detailed plot synopsis. Okay, so Act 1. In Scene 1, 3 witches meet to prepare for Macbeth's arrival. This happens on the heath, which is an open field. Scene 2, a captain delivers news to Duncan that Macbeth has succeeded in battle against the traitor. Duncan declares Macbeth the Thane of Cawdor. Now, one small point of clarification I want to offer is that the traitor whom Macbeth defeats is called Macdonwald. Okay, he has this notably Scottish prefix to his name. The other traitor who is sentenced to death and whose title of nobility Macbeth inherits is the Thane of Cawdor. So neither of these characters appears on stage in the play, but both are referenced throughout. Scene 3, the witches prophesy that Macbeth shall be Thane of Cawdor and King of Scotland, and that Banquo shall be father to a line of kings. Now remember, there's a little bit of dramatic irony here because Duncan has already declared Macbeth Thane of Cawdor. So when the witches tell Macbeth that he will be Thane of Cawdor, the audience knows that this has already happened. And the audience starts thinking before Macbeth does, wait a second, what these witches are saying seems pretty true. But Macbeth at this point doesn't know, and so it produces a little bit of dramatic irony. And Banquo shall be father to a line of kings. We've already talked about this, how this later is going to motivate in Macbeth's eyes the slaying of Banquo and his son, or the attempted slaying of Banquo and his son. Ross and Angus arrive and tell Macbeth Duncan has named him Thane of Cawdor. So this is when Macbeth's knowledge catches up with the audience's knowledge, and Macbeth begins thinking, wait a second, these witches, they seem to be telling the truth. I wonder if I'm also going to become King of Scotland. In Scene 4, the setting changes to Forres, Duncan's palace, and there Duncan thanks Macbeth and Banquo, and importantly, he names Malcolm heir to the throne. Now, if you remember, the heir to the throne of Scotland is called the Prince of Cumberland. It's analogous to England's Prince of Wales. Okay, so I think we can recognize that here Duncan sees there are some traitors. People see the royal family as weak. If I name my heir, my son, this will strengthen the reign of the Duncan family, right? And will increase the stability of the royal family in Scotland. Of course, this isn't the case. It doesn't stop Macbeth from going ahead and murdering Duncan and claiming the crown for himself. In scene 4, we also learn that Duncan is going to travel to Inverness for a banquet at Macbeth's castle. And again, we have some settings here, right? Inverness is Macbeth's castle. Forres is the palace of the King of Scotland. And the heath is the open natural space where Macbeth and Banquo meet the witches. Now, Macbeth writes a letter to his wife reporting recent events. And Lady Macbeth reads her husband's letter recounting the witch's prophecy. So she's reading this letter and then she reacts to it. And the audience is able to see what Lady Macbeth thinks about recent events, and what she proposes is the next reasonable action to take, which of course we're going to see is to murder Duncan and to fulfill the prophecy. A messenger then informs Lady Macbeth that Duncan and Macbeth travel to Inverness. She greets her husband, determined to kill Duncan and fulfill the prophecy. So this is really important. We meet Macbeth and we meet Lady Macbeth, and they've both kind of learned of this information that the witches provide Banquo and Macbeth with. And by the time Macbeth and Lady Macbeth talk to each other on stage, right, and Macbeth arrives, Lady Macbeth has already decided in her mind that Duncan must die and that the prophecy must be fulfilled. So this creates a little bit of tension that we're going to see as they argue. And we've looked at it in the past when we studied dialogue in an earlier section. Lady Macbeth is going to dominate that conversation. She's going to challenge Macbeth, and she's going to convince them to move ahead with the murder. In scene 6, Duncan arrives at Inverness with his sons and with the Scottish noblemen. So they're coming for the first banquet. And scene 7, Macbeth decides against murder, but Lady Macbeth convinces him to kill Duncan. And we started looking at the dialogue from this scene in an earlier lesson on dramatic speech. So this is when Macbeth and Lady Macbeth finally decide that they will kill Duncan that night in their castle. So now that we have a sense of the scene-by-scene action that takes place in Act 1, let's go ahead and move to a more sophisticated analysis of some key moments in Act 1.